Hello and welcome back. Before I begin, I have several new subscribers to thank, and I've been trying to do this from memory, but this time I am just so worried that I'm going to forget somebody that I made a little list. So, Nick Darling 12, A Grace 13, The Creative Journal, Outlaw 42001, Hottie Pants 123, Bonfan 2, and Absurdity Around Us. Thank you all very, very much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. And now, on with the haul. First, I picked up The Sea Came In at Midnight by Steve Erickson. I was very excited to find this because I'm a big fan of Steve Erickson's earlier novel, Days Between Stations. Just a really odd book, and if you asked me what it was about, I couldn't really tell you. It's just something kind of weird and fantastical, or not really fantastical, but sort of futuristic, and I don't know. I'm babbling. Just read it yourself. It's really good. So I was excited to find another book of his. And then I got a novel, Green Grass, Running Water by Thomas King. Culture of Complaint, The Fraying of America by Robert Hughes, who's sort of an interesting public intellectual guy who's written about everything from the founding of Australia to modern art. I was so incredibly excited to find this. This is Black Mountain, An Exploration in Community by Martin Duberman. Martin Duberman is one of my favorite nonfiction writers, and he just writes about everything. One of my favorites is his biography of Lincoln Kirstein, but he's written so much else, and this particular book is about the Black Mountain School and the community of poets and artists it fostered. Then I got this novel, P.S. by Helen Schulman, and the story of why I want to read this novel is kind of interesting and roundabout. A few weeks ago I saw a film called Roger Dodger, which I really, really liked, and that was directed by Dylan Kidd. So I went to see what else Dylan Kidd had directed, and it looks like he's directed only one other film, which is called P.S. and is based on this novel. So I figure I'm going to want to see that film, and once I see the film, if I like it, I'll probably want to read the book. So I figured I might as well, as a preemptive measure, just pick up the book while it was there and free. And then I got China Changes Face, The Road from Revolution, 1949 to 1989 by John Giddings. The Doctor is Sick by Anthony Burgess, sorry. I've actually read only one of his books, which is probably his most famous, A Clockwork Orange. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, I like the film a little better. I know I probably shouldn't say that. But a lot of his other novels look really interesting as well and aren't as well known, so including this one. Then I got this young adult novel called Genesis by Bernard Beckett. An autobiography by Amos Oz called A Tale of Love and Darkness. The Wedding Within the War by Michael Rossman. This book, the title is vaguely familiar to me. It's about the counterculture and protest movements of mostly the 1960s, I believe. And the title may be a reference to a wedding that I think took place during the Columbia sit-ins, at the Columbia University protests in the 60s. I'm not sure if that's what this is actually referring to, but that's just a guess. And then I was really excited to find this one. This is Intercourse by Andrea Dworkin. Dworkin is a radical feminist, not all of whose positions I agree with, but there's really hardly anybody out there whose positions I agree with, or who has positions which I consistently agree with. And even though she can be kind of abrasive and often, I think, brutally unfair, she does often say things that really need to be said, and this is her most famous book. And then I got this novel, Corregidora by Gail Jones. Facing West, The Metaphysics of Indian Hating and Empire Building by Richard Drennan. Gotta love the title. And then I got The Medieval World by Friedrich Hare. Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, a collection of Zen and pre-Zen writings compiled by Paul Reps. And then I got Anne Frank's Tales from the House Behind, which I believe is also known as Anne Frank's Tales from the Secret Annex. And I believe this is a supplement to her diary. This is something different because I read the diary some years ago, so I need to investigate a little bit, but I think this is a separate collection of her work. Then I got this book, Yoga by Ernest Wood. I figure everybody's into yoga, and it's a Pelican book, and pelicans are usually pretty good nonfiction books, so I might as well learn a little bit about it. And then I got this novel, The Black Marble by Joseph Wambaugh. I honestly wouldn't have picked this up except I saw the film pretty recently with Paula Prentice, who's one of my favorite actresses. And I thought that was pretty good, and I'm just sort of curious to check out the novel. Then I got Let's All Kill Constance by Ray Bradbury. I've tried to read some other Bradbury books, and honestly just for one reason or another have just not really gotten into his work. But this one sounds a little different, so I figured I'd give it a try. And then I got two, unfortunately, what appear to be the last two volumes in Evangeline Walton's The Mabinogion series, which is number 3, The Song of Rhiannon, and number 4, The Island of the Mighty. And I shouldn't say this because I have no idea. I was thinking this might be the, I wonder if these are the books that, apparently Stevie Nicks, who was in Fleetwood Mac, was reading some novel where there's a character named Rhiannon, and that's where she came up with her song Rhiannon, but I don't know if those are the books or not. And then I got Ride the Pink Horse and Two Other Great Mysteries by Dorothy B. Hughes, who is a famous classic pulp writer. And this anthology includes In a Lonely Place, which was later made into a film with Humphrey Bogart. And Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, classic science book. And then I got Heroines of Fiction by W.D. Howells, who is the author of one of my favorite novels, The Rise of Silas Lapham. And I unfortunately have not read any of his other books, but this is a collection of his literary criticism. He was also a very prominent editor at the time of his time. And then I got the volume 11 of the Young Folks trilogy, which is Myths and Legends. And In the Court of King Arthur. La Vie d'un Simple by Émile Guillaumin. The Snow Queen by Joan Vinge. The Genius of the Scandinavian Theatre. I was really excited to find this. So this is the Illustrated Junior Library edition of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I think I mentioned in a previous video that I collect these editions. And Far Field, a novel by Susanna Kaysen. I read Susanna Kaysen's memoir, Girl Interrupted, and honestly wasn't crazy about it, but this novel sounds pretty interesting. And The Tattered Cloak and Other Novels by Nina Berberova. Un Secret by Philippe Crambert, or A Secret. This is actually the novel on which a film I included in one of my movie hauls was based, and you may recall I wasn't crazy about the film, but I figured I might as well give the novel a try. And I was pretty excited to find this is L'Élégance du Hérisson, or The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbery. And this is a pretty famous contemporary French novel that I think just came out a few years ago, so I was glad to be able to find it in French. And then I got Horace Afoot, a novel by Frederick Royce. I was really excited to find this because I recently read Royce's A Geography of Secrets, which I thought was just great. And then La Cabale by Albertine Sarrazin. And Les Années Sandwich by Serge Lantz, and Histoire amoureuse des Gauls by Bussy Rabutin, or The Amorous History of the Gauls. I wonder what that is about. And let's see what else I have left. Then I got Good Comrades by Felix Salten, who is the author of Bambi and also The Hound of Florence, on which the films The Shaggy Dog and The Shaggy DA were based. I'm always interested in reading Salten because I'm not sure if he really was a children's novelist or not. His books tend to be very odd. And then Desperate Characters, a novel by Paula Fox. Nos enfants nous haïront, or Our Children Will Hate Us, by Denise Jeanbard and Jacqueline Remy. And oh, I was excited to find this copy of Moll Flanders because this is one of my favorite books, but it was in an anthology that I decided I didn't want to keep, so I was really glad to find it on its own. And then The Unvanquished, a novel by William Faulkner. And last but not least, this was my incredibly exciting discovery. Ronsard is one of my all-time favorite French poets, or favorite poets, period, and he's one of the French Romantics. And I managed to find his complete works, all 16 volumes, and they all look like this. I'm not going to haul all 16 volumes out for you, but this was a great find, and I'm looking forward to discovering some of his more obscure work. And if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me for my next video.